Hello, everyone. Great to be here with you. While walking to this place, I was joking with Damir and some other colleagues. You really need to be committed, to come here. It took half an hour, more or less, to come from Venetian to this place. So thank you, even more for that. I'm Fabio Cerone, Managing Director for AWS Telco Business Unit, managing Europe, Middle East, and Africa. In the company for 6 years now, after 18 years spent at Ericsson.
And good afternoon, everybody. As Fabio said, thanks for being here, giving us an audience. I'm Mayor. I lead our product management efforts, and I'll give you a little more why I exist at AWS later on.
Yeah. So the project we will talk about is the 5G core network project with Telefónica Germany. That to me is one of the most iconic projects that we have run since the telco business unit has been created. It's been a long journey, 2 years and a half, together with, I think, one of the most impactful change agents in the telco industry that I had the pleasure to meet, which is Malik Rao. He cannot be with us today, and so we had a small video that we will show with you. Now, the moment that you embark in such a huge transformation, because we are not talking about IT front-end applications, We're talking about the center and the core of a telco, the 5G core. And Malik was used to say, the moment that we will put the serious network workloads in the cloud, then we can say that we have done a serious transformation to cloud. And he made it. Now, moving into this kind of super complex transformation, it takes several components, right? It's not at all just a pure technological transformation. It's cultural transformation, it's organizational transformation, it's people transformation, it's transformations of your operations. And the first thing that you need to do is to kind of move away from the analysis paralysis that I'm afraid many of the telcos in the world, and not only the telcos, are trapped in. And so before going deep into the technical details of what we have learned in this journey, what we have achieved with Telefónica, I will spend a few minutes about a few mental models that we have at Amazon that we have shared with Telefónica, and in particular with Malik, along this journey. And the first mental model that I really started to love the moment that I joined this company is what we call the flywheel effect. Jeff Bezos was used to say that when you innovate, you better start focusing on 3 things that are immutable. And these 3 things are the 3 things that the customer will keep asking to you, regardless of what you want to innovate on. It's better cost, it's better selection, and it's better convenience. If you think about Amazon.com, the success of Amazon.com started the moment that we attracted sellers. Because the moment that you attract sellers, you give the buyers the possibility to choose. And customers want to have the freedom to choose. And then the moment that you attract sellers, what happens is that the traffic grows. And the more the traffic grows, the more you get in a business with increased volume, you create scale, and you can get cost out of your cost baseline because you can leverage your scale. And the moment that you can get cost out of your cost baseline, you can move that advantage on the price level. And the more you reduce the cost and the more you attract sellers, the more you get customers. And while you get customers, you get feedback from customers. And the feedback from customers will improve the convenience, their experience. This has been consistently our experience at Amazon, at AWS. Now, if you try to apply this simple rule in what we have done at AWS with telcos, we have been very intentional applying this basic rule. First one, selection. We wanted to make sure since day one that we would give you the possibility to select what? The best software vendor that you want for your core network. You know, we could have purchased, acquired companies, and we had a conversation about it. The answer consistently has been, we don't want to be another full stack that will oblige you to buy the full stack from us. We just wanted to make sure that we work with the likes of Ericsson, Nokia, Samsung, and the small startups like Working Group 2 or Ones to make sure that you get the best selection of cloud-native software to run your network in the cloud the moment that you feel ready. If you think about cost, when back in 2012 we decided to build our own custom silicon, yeah, that was a big step. And again, was part of a strategy to, while you partner with the big players like Intel, like AMD, you push the boundary to the next level because you do yourself your chipset. And this has been a consistent roadmap now, till now. First with Nitro, then with Graviton, then with Trainium, then with Inferentia. And the single result is that we have created the right friction, the right tension. We have been pushing the boundary first with Intel, then with AMD, now with NVIDIA. And the simple result is that if you look at Graviton 4 today, you get 30–40% better performance versus price, and even 60% better power consumption with respect to an equivalent x86 instance. And again, this is about reducing the cost, pushing hard to our partners to make sure that you guys can buy at the best possible price level. Now, if you think about what has this created for us, AWS flywheel result is this one. Since the inception of the company, 2006, we have gone through 134 unsolicited price level reduction, thanks to the flywheel effect that I was talking about. If you think about AWS Cloud, it became the center of innovation for a simple reason that the community of developers understood that this is the simplest and most cost-effective tool to reinvent segments. If you think about partners, they have understood that while the world is moving into the cloud, they had a wonderful opportunity to grow up their business. And these are the numbers. Millions of customers, more than 100,000 partners, more than 200 services that the developers use to reinvent the market. Within those partners and ISVs, you have a number of ISVs and apps from the telcos, the ones that I mentioned before. I could mention one extreme case of the spectrum. Working Group 2 was a company that was a spin-off of Telenor back in 2016. They had, till last year, the most innovative core network offering as a service, and they've been acquired by Cisco, as you might have heard. And this was the most, I would say, mature cloud-native core that we have seen till now. If you think about Ones, another startup partially owned by Deutsche Telekom, they've done the same consistently. And now working with the likes of Nokia, with our friends in Dish and Telefónica, we are helping them moving their software becoming cloud native. And we are doing the same with the Ericsson, with Samsung, and the others. Again, selection for you. It's interesting to understand and to reflect upon cultural transformation, operational transformation, organization transformation. And to me, it's always amazing to create kind of connection, connecting the dots between the type of organization and culture that you build and the software and systems that you deliver. Yeah? And so a monolithic organization will deliver a monolithic piece of software. Yeah? And so the point is, how shall we simplify things to provide agility? And so it's monolithic organizations versus federated DevOps-based organization. Is a culture where you need to ask for permission to a permissionless culture where you are free to experiment, where you are free to disrupt, where you are free to get rid of the analysis paralysis. And so if I would summarize the three things that really matter in a modern organization to move the needle while transforming to the cloud, I would say is a kind of AAA. Agility, autonomy, and automation. Agility, you need to break things in simpler things. Organizational-wise, we have always embraced the model that we call two pizza teams, meaning if you build a team, they need to build something, and this team requires more than two pizza to be fed, we believe that what they're going to build is too complex. And it's interesting to see how the moment that you federate in smaller teams, these smaller teams will get autonomy. And autonomy is the other fundamental piece. At Amazon and in every modern organization, you need to own what you build, because this will drive ownership. The third one is that you better automate whatever you can. If you think about Amazon Fulfillment Center, that would be a fantastic example of automating everything. That is the only way to make sure that while you're selling 4,000 products per minute or delivering 1.6 million packages per day, you can stick to the SLA that you have signed with your customers. And you stick to the cost-based line that makes your price level attractive. While talking about these things with Malik, he totally got the fundamental importance of these three things: agility, autonomy, automation. And so I think it would be good to listen to a couple of minutes of videos just to listen to his testimonial.
My name is Malik Rao, Chief Technology and Information Officer for Telefónica in Germany. The vision for me is telecom is good in adopting, but we're not good at disrupting ourselves. And that is something cloud as a technology was really attractive for us, which disrupts ourselves in terms of technology, in terms of operating model, in terms of culture. So these are the three essential elements for me when we started off this whole journey of cloud at the core of telecom. We've been working with AWS to bring core functions of telecom onto public cloud. It took, of course, 3 years for us to go there, bringing the services quicker to the market, innovating on services. That was the primary reason for us. And of course, working with AWS and in this case with Nokia on the packet core software for the 5G standalone. The outcome for the customer, what we were trying to drive with this solution is how can you scale quickly? How can you deploy software in-service upgrades and also innovate these services? When we've been connecting the say core network with the internet, however, if you want to go with 5G standalone, 5G advanced, low latency applications, and that's where we want to be quickly to the time to the market. What I really like working with AWS is it has agility at the core of it, because the journey when we started off, the public cloud was not ready for taking the telecom applications. And then the agility of AWS was really impressive. And that's where I felt very confident that I can take the core of my systems into public cloud. It's agility, it's nimbleness, and also learning. And it took 3 years for both of us to really learn. And today we have 1 million customers working live in the Frankfurt region. I get more and more confidence that I can move millions of customers onto this platform, what we have created last 3.5 years.
So here we go. We started July 8th with this deployment. Now we have 1 million subscribers active on the 5G standalone in Germany, and the plan is to scale up to 20 million. So the key question that I would ask yourself, and we try to answer ourselves, is where do we believe we are in this learning curve on cloud native networks? We believe we are back. We believe we are at the inflection point, guys. So we have learned in the last 2.5 years a lot from Dish, and it's live. In 2.5 years, we have learned a lot with Nokia and Malik and Telefónica Germany. We have gone through really tough lessons to learn. I think the key success factor has been that we have not been arrogant, they have not been arrogant. And both customers like Dish, like Telefónica, have been pushing hard, really hard, because the moment that you fix a timeline, a deadline, and you want to go live, then things happen. The one that these big leaders really are committed to it. There is a lot that we need to improve, for sure. And the intention now is to guide you through more from a technological standpoint. What is that we have learned? Which are the architectural choices that we have made? And which are the gaps that we still have that we need to address? And so Amir will drive you through the next chapter.
Thank you, Fabio. So let's just look at the lay of the land. What, from a telco perspective, from a network architecture perspective, how current networks, mostly designed, deployed, that are serving you and I, our mobile phones, our home gateways, our Wi-Fi networks at home, our TV subscriptions, how are they being designed? The status quo is that you've got traditional radio access-based networks. Of course, US is a little bit advanced. We've got operators who either have announced cloud-based architectures or have deployed cloud-based architectures on the radio access network. In the packet core, the industry is grappling with non-standalone, and you might have picked, Malik repeated at least twice, the fact that it's a standalone core. There are capabilities that 5G has promised a few years ago that we would start seeing with the rollout of standalone core networks. And then, of course, our voice networks, our IP multimedia subsystem networks. These are traditionally deployed as I wouldn't call them non-cloud native because industry has very different definitions. Some people just think that if it's a Kubernetes-based application, it's a cloud native application. The others would say that, okay, if it doesn't have the automation built in, then it's still not meeting the bar as far as cloud native or being cloud native. But essentially, we have got fairly static deployments of networks. The emphasis is on the word static. Now, this is why I exist at AWS. Imagine a world where, just like today you consume public cloud, most of you, I believe, are either AWS customers and partners. What is cloud? Cloud is very, very large infrastructure deployed at a global level. There is still fiber running, there is still offices, there's still racks of equipment, servers being installed. There's physical hardware there. It's not from thin air, but you don't see that physical hardware. You decide I need to be able to use a machine, a virtual machine, and that you need to call a Lambda function, and that you need a Kubernetes runtime environment, and that is the basis of your intent, and then you demand, and it appears, right? So it's a very large, cloud is a very large infrastructure that can meet your needs on demand and based on your intent. Now imagine the telecom infrastructure is changing, that they can breathe, they can inhale, and then they can exhale. They can scale in and they can scale out. And they provide the same kind of elasticity that cloud can actually do. Like that is the future that we envisage from AWS perspective. So that the telecom infrastructure, it gets completely automated. And what is our role? As Fabio mentioned, first and foremost, we are a cloud company. We can bring the automated infrastructure, the cloud infrastructure, as the foundation to the network application software to allow for that future telco network. A network that can breathe. A network where you as an enterprise or you as an individual consumer can define what you need and when you need it, and the service provider doesn't have to actually do truck rolls to be able to meet your needs. They have designed and deployed their network, such as Telefónica in Germany, in a way that it can scale up and down and it can meet your needs. So that is the objective. And if you look at it from the need perspective, of course, with telco networks, we associate mission criticality. They always need to be available. A lot of these are categorized as national infrastructure assets. You are talking about low latency, we're talking about augmented reality, virtual reality, you're talking about autonomous vehicles, all of the use cases that we've heard, and then the whole genesis of Gen AI and what AI era may unfold over the next 5 years or decade is anybody's guess. So the latency is going to be, and a deterministic latency is going to be a key critical need of a telco network that can scale in, scale out, and be able to serve you on your demand and at your intent. And with that, what is happening? There is at least a minimum 20% CAGR of data growth rate. This is the minimalistic idea. What does it mean? It means if you are today using 100 gig or 10 gig, in 3 years' time, you're going to double your data need. And that means the provider has to have the infrastructure agility. The software has its own agility, the Kubernetes environment, but they need to have the infrastructure agility, and that is where I will go back to the statement I made. You need, in future, we will need a network or networks that can breathe in and breathe out. And that means the software can breathe in and breathe out, but also the underlying infrastructure can also breathe in and breathe out. And that is where the promise of cloud and what we have built with Malik in Germany will actually means a lot in terms of the future of the telco networks. And the last but most important piece, due to the mission criticality, is the security and the regulatory compliance. German market is probably one of the most famous markets from regulatory constraints perspective, and we had to go and pass the bar across encryption, at transit, at rest, and ensuring that some of our technology, powered by AWS Nitro, as some of you might have been familiar with, which fuels the AWS Cloud Continuum across the value chain of an operator's business and across the topology of their network, starting from the region, going right down to the edge. And that has allowed us to actually meet some of those requirements. So if you look at the network modernization, what do we need in order to be able to build a network that can breathe in and breathe out? You need a continuous cloud infrastructure, because you need infrastructure to be able to breathe in and breathe out, to be able to scale in and scale out, and to provide you the resilience, and to meet the mission critical nature, and to provide the low latency, and meet the security bar. There's a lot of ands there. And so it is a complex journey, not only for the operators, but also for the ISVs, as Fabio was mentioning earlier on, that we've been working for at least good 6 years now with everybody who's a significant player in the telco industry. Then that requires the sameness, because you can't have disparity. If your on-premises infrastructure is a different kind of an infrastructure and runs a different kind of Kubernetes distribution compared to what you're running in the region, the model breaks. You will not be able to scale out when you need to, and you need to scale out. And you will not be able to fall back when you need to, and you need to fall back. That's what resilience means. Then you talk about the architectural uniformness. This is where we work with the technology ISVs, with the Nokias of the world, which is, in this case, is what we have done in conjunction over the last 3 years with Malik, as he openly mentioned. It's been a long journey for us, and we don't want to hide it, but because it has taught us a lot. And we are actually chasing a vision to ensure that we can bring a fully managed environment, not a customer managed environment, not a system integrator managed environment, not an ISV. AWS is providing a managed infrastructure. The ISV is providing a managed application. Together, we are providing a complete managed service for that customer that their end customers in German market can actually use. And last but not the least, all of these things, the first 4 things, the continuum, the sameness, the uniform architecture, and the manageability, offers the cloud automation. Cloud automation is not going to fall from thin air. It needs to have certain imperatives. We need to have certain imperatives being consciously thought through, choices being made about the architecture, and that is where the automation. Otherwise, automation is something that we will be able to, we may chase, we may not get there. And we need, if we want to deliver on the power of automation, you need to have these imperatives being met. Now let's think through, why would anybody build 5G core on AWS? And there are 2 vectors, or 2 ends of the spectrum. There is cost improvements or cost impacts, and then there is value impact. Cost, beyond a certain point, there is diminishing returns, but Fabio has mentioned about all the innovation, the cost reductions, and everything feeds in to the cost element. We've talked about automation as to reduce the people intervention, the truck rolls of cost, the manageability of the infrastructure, and launching it as a fully managed service. So that is where we address substantially the cost impact. And then The most important thing is what's highlighted in green is actually your operational resilience because of the mission critical nature, because of the low latency nature, because of the security and the survivability bar that a telco network being a national critical infrastructure has to meet. So there has to be operational resilience, which basically means you have to have SLAs, you need to have reduced unplanned outages, and you need to have continuous integration at the infrastructure level. So you can't have outages to deploy a new code because there are no outages in a telco network. I mean, you and I would not live with an outage for 5 minutes, even if we are told like 2 days in advance. And then lastly, there is this business agility, which is where I started. Remember where I started? We will be seeing networks that will be able to breathe in, breathe out, and be able to meet your needs on demand and at your intent. What does it mean? It means that you would have to have an agile network. Somebody wants to, let's picture, okay, I'm an automotive manufacturer. I want to create a slice for my vehicles to communicate at a given point in time, and there's some kind of a discovery that I've made. I want it now. The slice needs to be created, and it's not only core. It will go across the transmission network, across the radio access network, right down to the vehicle. That is what is meant when you talk about the future of business agility that we're talking about here. And that is why you build 5G core on AWS using Cloud Continuum. Why build radio access network? Something that we've been working a lot, something that we have not done today in Telefonica, but that is for all practical purposes and intentions where we are going. As I said, across the topology of the network. What is the last topology of a radio access network, a 5G network? That's the radio access network. So I just give you an example. I want to create a slice. The slice doesn't mean 5G core. It also means radio access network. So I need to be able, the onus is on me as AWS to bring the cloud continuum right down to the baseband of a radio of a 5G network. And that's what we've been doing. We've been doing to allow for that uniformity of architecture and uniformity of ability to breathe in and breathe out. I mean, I'm repeating it again and again so that's, if there's one phrase that you take away from this session, is we in future, in our lifetimes, not very far away, probably next 5 years or so, we'll be able to see networks which will breathe in, breathe out, will actually be able to meet our demands on our intent and on demand. It will happen. So all of this is being powered by AWS Cloud Continuum. And I would not bore you with a lot of boxes here, but we've got fundamentally 3 different types of AWS infrastructures. AWS regions, these massive data centers constituting of availability zones that you've heard Andy, you've heard Matt today talking about all of the innovation of silicon, all of the innovation of compute instances, Amazon EKS, our fastest growing like Kubernetes service, a fully managed service, everything is being powered, the innovation is being powered there. Then we announced a few years ago AWS local zone at the metropolitan area level. And then we've also got fully robust, fully managed infrastructure on customer premises, which is something also that we are also using for telco networks, because most telco networks would have significant compute have to be available on premises through AWS Outposts. So in the customer data center. So that is the complete spectrum, as I said, across the value chain of the business, across the topology of the network. It's same AWS APIs. It's the same Amazon EKS. It's the same Amazon EC2. It's the same service. It's not similar. It's the same. And that is a big, you would hear a lot of pitch saying it's similar. No, it's the same. So that means once you've built in the region, you don't want to worry about testing on the outpost. You don't want to worry about testing in the local zone. And that's something we've already sort of proven to the industry. So as part of this work that we've been done with Telefonica Germany, we are meeting very, very specific requirements in terms of performance, TCO, automation, and a fully managed experience on the AWS Outpost. But that is work that we've already been doing, and it's work that's known. In terms of specific business challenge, and I'm about to summarize and close on here, and then we can have some discussions. Like, what was the challenge? Malik mentioned he was looking for innovation. He already had a 5G network, and a non-standalone, a 5G standalone network. Why build on cloud? the time to market piece, if you may recall from one of the slides, and Fabio talked about it earlier on, and the focus on creating a network of the future, which can scale in and scale out, serve your need on your demand, on your intent, is what was driving him. So that, in other words, not a monolithic network, not a monolithic application. And the solution was thought to be, okay, can we come up with a cloud continuum which can meet the security bar, once again, across the topology? It could be in the region, it could be down on the outpost. Exactly the same architecture, exactly the same ability to scale in and scale out, exactly the same automation framework. You don't have to worry about capacity planning here or there. That is how we actually solved it. And the business outcome that we've driven is that today, 1 million customers, mostly belonging to the large enterprise segment, are actually running on AWS, because those customers have more robust demands in terms of dynamic provision, service provision, and they are also willing to pay a premium for the experience, and the bar is pretty high. This next slide, we should glance this. This is really an architecture. And I don't intend to go down into the depths of this, but this basically shows the control plane and the user plane. We can go into details, and we can talk to you in detail in subsequent discussions. Now let's close out. So how would I recap, and what would be the key takeaways? I've been at AWS for 8 years, and this is the time to introduce myself. I exist to be able to meet the requirements and the demands of our customers and partners who would want to build the network of the future. That's what I do as a director of product management at AWS EC2, focused on telco sectors. And that is the only reason there's a group of people who work day in and night, working with different partners and customers across the globe to think through the use cases, to think through the design considerations, to think through the choices. Fabio made a very, very smart observation earlier on when he was talking to you. Design choices. There are design choices. So you can run all of your 5G core network in the region if you want to. What does it mean? As long as you are willing to move all your caching to the region, as long as you are willing to use a different peering schema. And it's not simple. People often think about just meeting the bare packet per second throughput requirement. It's not that. That's table stakes. That's gone. We solved that a long time ago. We really have to think not from an application architecture, because once you are talking a telco, you need to be able to think like as if you are the CTO, and how would you design your network? How would you place different components of your network? What would be the impact to the transmission schema? What would be the impact to how you cache, whether it's YouTube traffic, whether it's Facebook traffic, whether it's the other ISP traffic? How would you do that? All of these things have to be thought through. Does it make sense taking the traffic all the way back to the region, or do you want to trombone it back and use your existing peering? We have thought through, and this is the experience. I would humbly but very confidently suggest that we have learned this in the last 6 years, and this is why we would like to make an assertion that, the time of POCs and playing with it, we've done that. And I think the industry, we can actually sit across the table, help you walk through understand what are the design compromises that you may end up making if you go in the region versus use AWS Outpost versus use local zone. What may happen when, and what should be your resilience posture? Like, what is the premium your customers are willing to pay for the SLAs that they may want? And how do we design them better together? The focus and emphasis is here together. So we are ready to come partner with you, walk through the design considerations, understand, sit across the table, look through through the lens of your operations team, your business team, and then decide what is the best architecture. So in terms of the security, in terms of compliance and regulation, AWS Nitro meets the bar, happy to work with you and go through the details exactly the same way. It was a year-long journey that we undertook with Telefónica in Germany to address and satisfy all of their requirements. On the network automation, there is no one-size-fits-all. I was talking to one of our customer CTO yesterday at the reception, and they're one of the furthest along in the automation piece. an orchestration piece, it has to be tailored to your needs. So there is a framework. We can bring Gen AI. We've got launch frameworks like Network Genius and some of the others. These are frameworks, these are architectural best practices to leverage the capability of an inferentia of all of the Gen AI capabilities that we are building, ML models, and then work with you to build an automation, a CI/CD pipeline, which would continuously integrate, and which would continuously optimize, and which would continuously improve. So we are willing to work with you on that one. And the last takeaway is that there is a very tight correlation. This is why you might have noticed that this session started about AWS and about culture. Why? There is a very tight correlation about the type of organization that you are and you want to be, and the kind of software, the kind of technology that you may have today, and where you want to be. So with this, I'd like to thank you, and I know we've given you a lot, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much.